to FUNY Standup. Who knows what FUNY Standup stands for? Funny University of New York. Or fuck you, New York. Okay, great. So I'm Felicia Madison. I'm one of the co-founders along with these three fabulous white men.
Hey guys.
Wow. I'm the booker of the club. I run the club. And we do Comics Helping Comics because we really want to create a fun, nice, safe community for people to come, ask questions, and get to know other comics and make it a collaborative effort. As the co-founders, we're going to answer any of your questions you have about comedy or the school. And then at the end, we're going to have a brave volunteer come up. So think about who that might be, who has one joke, got to be small, that they're having trouble with. And the four of us are going to try to fix it.
And if we can't, we'll close the school.
Yes.
If we can't fix it, it's over.
And we're all going to take a turn at it, so you can see like the different ways that we look at dealing with a joke. So instead of me introducing these fabulous men, I'm just going to pass the mic and have them do it themselves. And I know we don't need the microphones, but we're recording it, so it helps. Okay.
Hey, how you doing? Live. There's some energy in this room. This is what we do when we walk on stage at any comedy club where there's a listless energy. They're like, nobody, what the hell's wrong with you people? You're in a comedy club. Let's hear some joy. Anyway.
Wake up.
Yeah. It's great to be here at this illustrious panel. I'm one of the founding members of FUNY. Is it FUNY? What is FUNY? FUNY, the school here at yes, FUNY. The school here at Westside Comedy Club. It's awesome, and I will be. Well, we're on this panel. I've been doing stand-up. I think I wandered into a club, Tickles in West Nyack. Nice. Okay. Which is no longer there. I think after I performed there, it closed directly right after that. Yeah, whatever. Yes, exactly. Yes, I love the, yeah. So anyway, so I've been doing comedy for a very long period of time. Back in the 90s, I started there and have been performed all over the world. And one time at a female Jello pit wrestling match, you know. So I have a long and performed all over the world in Amman, Jordan, England, Glasgow. Just come back from Paris, performing during the Olympics. And so I'm happy to contribute and answer any questions you have and throw it back to my illustrious panel of great comedians here, Clayton Fletcher and Eddie Brill. You go. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
His name's Brian, by the way. That's
Brian Scott McFadden.
I don't know
Sorry.
if he said that.
I didn't even say my name. Thank you. Brian Scott McFadden.
So I'm Clayton Fletcher. I've been doing comedy for about 22 years. I've also been teaching for about 15 years. I actually enjoy teaching almost as much as I enjoy performing. When I see one of my students or someone that I'm coaching get up and really figure something out and get that really big laugh that we always knew they could get, it's probably the best feeling in the world to me. So when Felicia approached me about being part of FUNY, which I've also been mispronouncing FUNY, by the way, F-U-N-Y, I guess. I jumped right on it. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea and something that the four of us have been very excited about from the beginning. We had kind of a soft launch in the spring, but the show is like kind of, the school is becoming like, the big show is happening in the fall. So we're looking forward to meeting all of you, those of you that we don't know, and working together. Similar to Brian, comedy has taken me around the world as well. I oddly have a following in Sweden, which no one can understand, including me. But yeah, I travel with Jim Jeffries on the road, and I used to open for Norm Macdonald, rest in peace. So now I'm looking for someone who's going to live a while so I can open for him. And I'll turn it over to Eddie.
Okay, I'm going to try to live, and we'll make that work. Hi, I'm Eddie Brill, and I've been doing I started comedy in a comedy group with improv and sketch with a lot of people who ended up becoming famous, and me, back in the late 70s, and then I quit. And then 40 years ago, 2 weeks ago, was my 40th anniversary of doing stand-up in a row. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And I love it more. I love teaching second, I do, just like these guys said. But I love stand-up. I could, forever and ever. Someone said the other day, when are you going to retire? I said, never. Comedian, you don't retire. And, it was always my dream to travel the world and I've been able to do that for all these years. And then I've been on both sides of the camera, booking comics, and I get the excitement when I see a comic that I've found or thought was like Camille Nangiani. I thought he was had something going, and it took a while to get him, but he got on TV, and then he's, you know, doing pretty well. So that's the kind of excitement I get when I see comedians that I've worked with do really well. I was very lucky to have the influence and under the mentorship of people like John Mendoza and Sam Kinison and Robert Schimmel. I was just a hardworking young comic, and they saw that, and they glommed on to my career. And no, they just said they liked what I was doing, and they pushed me to keep going further. So I still love it. I love this part of it. That's why, in a sense, why we're doing this, because people have been good to us, and we want to share that with you. And I'd be more than happy to talk with anyone and, you know, talk about jokes or whatever. I'm doing a workshop for the first time in like 3 months now, September 8th. So if you guys are around for that, that's the beginning of our season, I think.
Yeah, we're back to school, guys.
Yeah.
So we don't have that much time, so I think like maybe 20 after we'll stop to do the jokes and do that quickly, because we have a hard out at 6:30 because we have a show. So at 6:30 we're gonna have to ask everyone to get the fuck out of here. But you wanted to say something? No?
I eat up the time.
No.
No, I just want to say that it's such a baffling, bewildering art form, stand-up comedy. It really is. It's vexing and it's confusing, and even we don't know the answers to every question. A lot of us will even attest to the fact that we'll write a joke and go, this is gonna kill, and it gets absolute crickets and nothing, and we can't even figure it out. And then you'll just blurt out something on stage that, and then it gets a titanic response. And then we just go back to the drawing board and go, wow. I love William Goldman, great screenwriter, greatest screenwriter of, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and, whatever, a bunch of other ones. And he, yeah, what's the one with the
Dustin Hoffman.
Yes. The Marathon Man and whatever. But the point is, he said nobody knows anything, okay? And it's true. In show business, nobody knows anything, okay? We will hope to disprove that some of us here know something, okay? But some of us may know something. But in the larger scheme of things, you always have to trust yourself, and we will encourage you to do that.
And on top of that, can't make you who you are. You have to be the person. You have to find your most authentic self, and you do that through discovery and stage time and writing. And it's kind of who you know, which is something that has helped me throughout my whole career. So be kind and friendly to everyone around you, and also work really hard. Those are really the best advice I can give. Stage time.
And William Goldman wrote The Princess Bride.
Yes. Good night.
Okay, so let's start with questions. Anyone have a question off the bat? No, go ahead.
Yeah, did I understand you correctly? In other words, there's no rules, there's no real way of teaching this? Is that what you're trying to say?
Don't misunderstand something. Don't misunderstand. I was being somewhat glib about that. There are certain things that all of us will attest to that we can guide you, but then you'll see people break the rules. But there are rules that we want you to recognize. Concision in joke writing. Concision, shortness, brevity, being the soul of wit, in the words of Polonius from Hamlet, and so we want that. That's very important. Then you'll see somebody do a long, drawn-out, hilarious joke like Norm Macdonald, classic example of somebody who the entire joke is the length of it. And the fact that it goes on, and the punchline is weird or a non sequitur or something like that. So that's a case where brevity is necessarily the soul of wit right there. And that's an example of something that is kind of like vexatious and it breaks the rules. But there are certain rules, and there are certain rules. They're not completely applicable, but you want to learn the basics of basic joke writing and certain dynamics about performing that do apply, and that once you can learn those, then you can throw them out the window. And but once you learn them, you can get rid of them.
A lot of times I think what we're laughing at when we see a comedian break the rules is the fact that that comedian is breaking the rules, right? Like hey, welcome to the stage, Harry Henderson, he comes up, and you're fully expecting him to be like, hey, like Brian did, hey everybody, how you feeling tonight? Get some energy. And if Harry Henderson, who I made up, if he gets up on stage and he goes, hi, you're gonna laugh, right? Yeah, Stephen Wright, great example. you're going to laugh because you kind of know what the rules are, even as an audience member. So I think one of our jobs as students of this art form is to figure out when someone is laughing, why? And when someone is not laughing, why not? Because if you can do that for yourself, and also when you watch other comedians, oh, she could have gotten a laugh if she would have done this or said that, then you will improve in your ability to, get those laughs more consistently as well. But yeah, the rules, we have rules, and when we teach, we actually use something of a curriculum that we all agree on. But at the same time, we all recognize it's comedy, not math. So the rules are kind of meant to be broken.
And which is weird because oftentimes, even those are my great friends, I disagree that comedy is math. That's what I believe. There's the mathematics to comedy and music that has helped me to be a better comic, better writer. I see that. And I also think that if you would have told Andy Kaufman, here's the rules, or you told Lily Tomlin, here are the rules, we'd lose out. What I've learned, you evolve over time. At the beginning, I had some jokes that I wouldn't do these days, and because they evolve, and so do we. The key I've found is find your truth as a comedian, and then with a nice, strong backbone, like even Woody Allen, as mellow as he is, he had a strong backbone, and that's so important for comedians to show who they are, to be alluring to the audience, a combination of allure, great timing, and a confidence that is unbreakable.
Yeah, and getting back to the curriculum, we did put together a full-fledged curriculum so that every person that takes our class is learning all the basics and has a great foundation to grow from. And there are going to be levels. There's 101, and you have to graduate to 201. Just because you take 101 does not mean you're going to necessarily go to 201. And then 301, and then we're going to have a residency program at the top that are going to be comedians working together and having access to, special meetings and more writing sessions, and we're still developing that. And then eventually will lead to getting passed at the club. And we're going to have classes, seminars, and a bunch of other fun stuff, along with comics, helping comics. Next question.
How do you feel about using accents? I'm working on a set right now, and it's a split down the middle between. It's a dating experience that I've had, and the person I'm with is Chinese. And he's got a thick Chinese accent. How do you feel about a white woman using a Chinese accent in a dating set? 30 and under, they say no. 30 and above, yay.
I'm a little bit more concerned about how I feel about a white woman dating a Chinese person. Anyway, we'll let Brian, the accent person, do it.
Okay.
So your question is, you have a bit that requires that?
It doesn't necessarily require, but it makes it, to me and to those who are older than 30.
Okay.
It gets a laugh.
Right.
Under 30, it's almost like I'm safe. But
Okay.
by using my personal dating experience
Yeah.
with a Chinese person. So my question is, can I use an accent to describe a back and forth
Okay,
scenario or not?
let's put it this way.
Yeah.
I have a bit that requires I do accents in my act.
Yeah.
This has become a problematic issue in comedy. I don't think it should be, but it has, and then you have to deal with that. It's an issue, it's a problem, and it's one that I tackle head on to deal with it because it obviously times change. Depends on what you're doing. If the entire backbone of the joke is reliant on that, then you're getting into an area where, okay, what's really getting the laugh here? Is it this or is it that? If it's nothing but that, and you can't do it without the accent, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but I will say that if you're coming from this with a loving energy,
Yes.
something that's sincere and heartfelt,
Yeah.
and it's not coming with, I'm going to make fun of this person,
Right.
an audience can read that energy That's something that you don't hear much about in stand-up, which bothers me because people just take the literal thing. Oh, you're doing an Asian accent, right? You're just doing that.
Right.
Or you're doing that person, you're doing that accent. And it's like, no, you didn't hear, you have to
It's
you
their
have to
shit,
read.
not yours.
Yeah, it's their stuff, and there's a whole thing, and usually the people that get offended are white people.
And
okay?
I have a bit that I do that actually with. I used to do a bit about Old MacDonald had a farm and how it's taught in different languages. Or at least, it always says E-I-I-O, that's the punchline. So I learned how to sing it in Chinese, really. So when I do it, I'm not offensive to anybody.
Right.
I know how to sing that song in Italian and Chinese, and if I do it in any of those languages, I'm not making fun of the sound, unless my bit's about, you know what's funny to me when I hear the sound of a Chinese accent, that throws me off. That's your truth, and no one can argue with that. And if they do, they're just, fuck
Yeah.
them.
And nothing offends comedians, good comedians, more than a hack bit that is coming from a cheap laugh. Funny will guide you. If something's funny and legitimately funny with a soulful aspect to it and your truth and isn't coming from a cheap laugh, then I think that's cool. But whenever you tackle something like that, the degree of difficulty rises and the punchline better justify its existence. You better get a huge laugh on that. And it better be a good one, and it should flesh out something from you, about you, and your life, and your heart, in order to justify its existence in your act.
I'll agree with all of my colleagues up here. I just want to add, my personal opinion is I don't really believe in censoring comedians. That said, my act is on the clean side for sure. I'm not particularly edgy myself. But I feel like when I work with people and I'm coaching or helping them, build their sets, it's not my place to tell them what the morality is of what they're doing. I leave that up to audiences, right? If you guys are here and you guys are taking classes with us, presumably that's because you'd like to be professional, mainstream, working comedians someday. And one way to get there is to be unequivocally offensive. That's actually a path to success that some people that I've worked with in the past have taken and gone on to become way more successful than I'll ever be doing exactly that. So it's not up to me as a teacher to say, you can't do that joke because you're a white woman and you're talking about someone that's non-white and you have white privilege. I don't believe in doing all that when we're doing comedy. The audiences that you will face every night and perform for and entertain are the judge and jury, as far as I'm concerned. And if you build a following by doing material that includes you doing accents of races that you don't belong to, I say more power to you. Build your audience. That's the job.
Yeah, I have an audience of white bitchy women, so
They love it.
I could do all those jokes.
But if you're doing like the bit in that, where, what's his face, in Breakfast at Tiffany's, where he's just making fun of the Mickey Rooney, it's just rude. It's just, there's no comedy to it except he's taking the cheap and easy way out. I used to, when I said I did this Chinese bit and I would do silly version of the language, it got laughs, but it didn't feel as good as when I learned it in Chinese, did it in Chinese, got the laugh. There might be one Chinese person in the audience from China, and there you could see them light up that the fact that I took the time to learn the language enough to be able to use that. Or if you describe, when I hear a Chinese accent, it throws me off because when I hear this, I hear this. So what's the foundation of the bit? What's the foundation of your bit about the Chinese dating person?
It's just a back and forth between kind of our love language.
Your what, say?
Our love language.
Love language. Okay, well that's the foundation, and that's what you build from with your piece. But remember, like I used to do a bit about French-Canadian men and women in Florida, and it was very cheap and almost misogynistic in a way, and I got a laugh. But years later, I threw it out. But you evolve as a comedian, and what I was able to do with this joke was realize that, the whole idea behind the joke was that I was jealous. So once I realized that I was jealous, I was able to use that to get the laugh, as opposed to the cheap thing that I had done before. It's the foundation of what the bit starts with.
And this is a topic we could go into and talk about. I could talk about this for hours. I love this stuff, doing a deep dive on this. I have very strong opinions about this and a long history of talking about this, and I have a long history of understanding what voices do, imbuing characters as an actor is about embodying people and showing their heart and the commonality that people have. No matter what the color of their skin or the differences that people have, the commonality that we all have, the folly of the human condition, and that's what's the best comedy should do that. So this is one of those topics that we could go into a lot and discuss, but I hope that
We'll do one whole seminar on it.
Yes. I teach. I'll be teaching a class, Find Your Authentic Comedy Voice, which is about stuff like this. Alice is
Did you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I
And,
did.
yeah.
If you're auditioning or if you're doing like a comedy festival or something and you have a type 5 and you know like the booker or people like that are watching you and like you know the audience is like tight and everyone's bombing, should you like try to do crowd work or just like power through like your set?
Good question.
Yeah, I would never power through if that, to work the crowd. When I used to book Letterman show, and if people send me an audition tape, I don't want to see them working the crowd because in that scenario we don't need them to work the crowd. But if you're doing a show and you happen to work the crowd, that's great. But we want to see most of the time what your material is and how you handle yourself. And because there's so much more nonverbal skills than verbal skills, and you want to see that you have layers, and that I think is what we see. Funny thing is, some people would send me an 8x10, and I go, "Why you send me 8x10? I have the CD. It's not going to change or make People worry about all the other things. Don't worry. Just attack your comedy. Be strong with it, and also show your strength up on stage. And because they get when I was a Letterman, I got like 4,000 audition tapes, so I still had to go through them. But what I always look for is someone who was the most natural, the person who got rid of all the bullshit that they've been carrying around all their lives, and now we're able to deliver who they are and came from their strength.
So we actually have an audition showcase here tonight, and I was the person responsible for watching not 4,000, but let's say about 400 videos. It's a lot. What I tell people to do when you're auditioning is you have to connect with the audience, but we want to see your material. I mean, knowing that you did great crowd work one night where you kind of got a dead audience to start laughing is nice, and it's definitely like a feather in your cap. But what we pay comedians for here is the material that they've spent 10, 12, 20, 40 years writing. And so that's where the real that's what we're looking for in auditions generally.
That said, when you're auditioning and something happens in the room, it is incumbent upon you in some ways. It can come off as robotic if you don't act like that happened and you don't say something. That doesn't mean you go, where are you from? Like hey, where are you from? You don't break into that. But I've told the story before when I auditioned for Letterman at Gotham. I was fourth or something like that. I think I was fourth, and some of the comedians, nobody had a great set. And I was almost ready to go on, and I thought, oh, good, I'm going to kill now. If I go up now, I'm going to rock. And then Mike Vecchione went up and slaughtered, changed the entire energy in the room. So what happens in an audience is an energetic organism that changes and flows, and you have to read that sometimes. And if somebody says something or something happens in the room, there is a spontaneous reaction. It doesn't mean break your set. You still got to find a way to weave that back in to the material that they came to see, because they're not going to book you because you said one witty thing to that if the rest of your act is not strong. So
right, but if you just go, so how many people are married? If you go, how many people are married? People raise their hands, and you never continue that conversation. Why did you bring that up? But people do that. It's the same thing. Like, give yourselves a round of applause for coming out tonight. Why? I've gone out before, and I don't need to applaud that I've gone out before. It's just a bullshit way to get people to respond instead of having them respond to your actual material in your set. That's what I wanted to see. I didn't need to see all this, the fluff that American comics, we do. A lot of pandering. So as a comic, I want to see some come out with a strength, not set it up, knock it down, walk off stage and go, I need that person in the show that I'm booking.
Yeah, I would say doing crowd work is very risky in general, unless you're really good at it. Because if you're just going to start talking to people and not be funny, you're going to ruin all your chances with the booker. So my suggestion would be to stick with your material and figure out what your objectives are, because if your objectives are just to get a good tape, you'll get it, even if the audience is bad. And as a booker, I can tell. We did an audition where one comedian killed, and another comedian I thought was very funny, but he didn't get as much laughs as everyone else, and it was because he didn't have as many friends in the audience. And I could tell that. I could tell that he was good. I could tell that he had great skills, and he was funny, so we had him come back another time. So the one thing that it's my pet peeve, especially when you're a young comedian and you only have 5 minutes up on stage, to waste it doing any of the things that they said.
Give it up for your host. Yeah.
It's just, you have 5 minutes and you're working on your craft, and it's a crutch, and I always think it's a defense mechanism for them being insecure. Even just getting up on stage and starting right away is a huge skill that takes a very confident comedian to do. And if you get up there and say, hey, how you doing, or whatever, first of all, if every comedian got up there, the audience would be like, we're fine. Yeah, so I would say, and the one thing also is, if you're looking to tape a set, I find, and it's hard to be on a regular show where comedians are doing 12 minutes, 15-minute sets, and they will be doing crowd work, and then you get on and you're like sitting there just doing your set. It does break the energy, and it is a little weird. So I always tell people that come to me that want to do a 5-minute set, I always tell them to come to the new talent shows, because everyone's doing a 5-minute set, so they kind of like blend in and it works better.
Yeah, we've had comics make videos for late night bookers in the new talent showcase, and they just look like they're one of the comics doing the 5-minute new talent spot, and then they just happen to be a million times funnier than everybody else. It's like, wow,
That guy's great.
That guy's
He's
really
gonna be a
good.
star.
Yeah, because they're used to that 5-minute rhythm, so it doesn't feel as weird as it would, like, somebody's doing 15 or
By the
20.
way, if you're bad at crowd work, don't do crowd work. Okay? Really, seriously, it's really painful. I hate saying this, but there's some people that think I got to do crowd work. Well, there's a workaround, and I teach this in my class. Find a way to have material that you can ask somebody what they do, and have a fail-safe thing that weaves you back into your act. If you want to do something like that, there's all kinds of little devices that will allow you to say, what's your name? Because you have a bit about your name, okay? And then you can connect with someone, but also bring it back. That's for people who aren't good at crowd work. Some people are masters of that shit, and it's amazing to watch. That ain't me, but those people, I watch those people and I'm amazed. So if you're not good at it, minimize it, okay? Even when you're emceeing, a lot, you see MCs who can't do crowd work, and they
and they're trying to open the show, and it's like, say something funny.
Where are you from? That's awesome. Anyway, it's like they're just lousy at it. It's like, what the fuck? Okay, then give me some jokes or something. So just do that, and that's what
One time, Letterman was in Denver, and he was opening for Leslie Uggams. That's how, a million years ago. And he was so nervous, and he's doing 30 minutes, and he came out, and he said, hey, where are you from? And the guy said, I'm from Denver, and everyone laughed, because they're all in Denver. And then he asked another person from Denver, and they laughed again. And he said to a third person, the guy goes, look, I'm from Denver, he's from Denver, we're all from Denver, now do your act. And he ran off the stage, and they didn't know what to do. The stage was empty for a while. It's not easy to do it, but if you work with someone who's really great at it, I got to work with Paula Poundstone, who's the best in the world at it, then you get to learn and sometimes try it. It's a nice little, it matters the scenario. If you're auditioning for someone, you don't really want to do crowd work unless you're great.
Yeah. Watch Todd Barry, or somebody who's really a master of that, that are just off the cuff, hilariously funny. I don't even know. And if you want to say a great MC who works the crowd, Ray Allen, really great MC, good friend of mine, amazing with the crowd. He just goes up and just asks people questions, and it's just magical. Wherever he is, whatever he does, I don't know how he does it, but it's amazing. It looks like a magic trick every night, so it's really amazing. So, but if you're not that, don't do it. Try to avoid it.
I feel like crowd work has kind of
it's kind of taken a life of its own because of social media. I mean, we used to all just, when we started, none of us, we didn't have social media back then. It's how long we've been doing comedy. We would just use crowd work to get us to the next joke in a seamless way. You know, you two married? Yeah, I'm married too. You know, then it gets me into my joke about being married, right? And now it's like people don't want to put their material on Instagram for a variety of reasons. Not the least of which they don't want Mark Zuckerberg to own their material. Which, by the way, when you put things on Instagram, it is property of yeah. That's, you read the fine print. Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to do anything with it, but yeah, that's a thing. But there's a lot of other reasons why comedians don't want to do that.
He's gonna own me? That's great.
He does. He's got enough. He's got enough already. Yeah.
So, as you guys said earlier, to be a student of comedy and develop your comedy, you gotta get stage time. Stage time is essential. And for my certain scenario, I recently moved to New York, and so my question is to you is, what is the most efficient way to reach out to these clubs, to these promoters, to these people that work at the club, in order to try to get as much stage time as you can get, so you can develop to be that thing that you're striving for?
Why don't you take that one, Felicia? You're the one who runs the club.
You know, it's difficult. It's sort of like a catch-22, you know. And there are some ways you could ingratiate yourself with clubs and bookers. You know, me personally, I have people that help me a lot, that are here and asked to do things and offer their services. And, you know, and obviously it's always has to be someone that I think is of the level. Someone that has been supportive of the club, gone through classes or done a lot of shows, and I see that they have potential, I'll work with them. I think producing shows is a way that people do it, finding a way to get on stage yourself. But one of the things that, one of the reasons why I love the school and what we're doing is not that it's stage time, it definitely is, but I think having good mentors and tutors and people teaching you can help you mitigate a little bit of that stage time. Like I always say, my philosophy is if you want to learn how to hit a home run, you can go and the batting cage and you could have a ball thrown at you and you could hit that ball for like weeks trying to figure out how to hit that home run. Or you could have a coach that's sitting there telling you everything that you're doing wrong and giving you pointers, and it kind of like streamlines the process. It makes it a little bit easier for you. And the one thing that I really despise, is maybe strong dislike, is when I have a certain level comic who's like, I'm beyond that. And like, no one's beyond that. Everyone, you know, professional baseball players, professional actors, they all have coaches, and they're all constantly learning. So I think that in addition to your stage time, I would suggest that you guys do that, because I know people that have not had a lot of stage time and have worked very hard and have gotten to where they wanted to faster.
If you take a class here, you'll make connections with people also. You'll meet other open micers and people that are starting out, that are trying to get started, and that's really where you're gonna, oh, there's an open mic in Brooklyn, oh, there's something in Staten Island, God forbid. In Staten Island, if you, right. Yeah. I've done many great shows at Staten Island.
It's getting dirty.
New Dorp Plaza I performed at, so I have at Grandpa's Comedy Club, and many times, and was abused verbally as well as physically in that club. But just getting to know, meeting other comedians, asking around, going on the web. You have the list of the open mic nights that are here, and you'll just make connections with people and just go. And if you're funny, people want to talk to you and say, hey, I'm doing a mic here, and other people have produced shows that they do, and we're doing a mic here, and that's how you do it. I do recommend taking a class because it's really helpful, and you'll meet other people, and the classes here are great. And we will like I will anyway, my class, break you down and go, okay, this is bullshit what you're doing. This is not your voice. This is not who you are. Let's find out, and it'll take you to a different place with your voice, and to try to strip away what's untruthful about what you're trying to say on stage. That's what I love comedy that's based on a real visceral and unique. What makes you individual and unique. So yeah.
We'll see in the open mics, or especially in the new talent showcase, somebody will sign up, and we'll get an email from them like, "Hey, I just moved here from wherever," and we're always kind of like, "All right, well, let's give this person a shot." They bring 3 friends, 4 friends, whatever. They do the 6 o'clock show, and some of them just blow us away, and those are the people that are going to be doing the audition showcase tonight, because we think that they have the potential to possibly join the roster, But we have a much, much higher percentage of comedians who firmly believe that they are ready to join the roster. And, as sensitively as I can say this, they're wrong. They're just not getting the big laughs yet. And so the best advice is, don't be too eager to audition. Don't be too eager to try to get on a stage that you might not actually belong on yet. Work on getting funny. Like, the answer to every question you guys are about to ask is become undeniably hilarious. And then, if you ask me, how do I get an agent? Just be undeniably hilarious. How do I get on stage? Get funny, get on stage. It all kind of works together. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I think many times we live in like a microwave, TikTok 30 seconds or less society, and comedy doesn't work that way. This is a grind. You need to get in there, work with your coach, hit the batting cage, go back to your coach, watch the video. It's like, it doesn't, I love that analogy, by the way. It doesn't really happen overnight as much as we wish it could.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other thing to, as a comic, you need stage time, and if you can't get stage time and you're from out of town and you can't bring 4 people, it's a conundrum that ends up happening. So either, when I first started, I started a comedy club, and this way I was on every week because I knew the booker. That's what you do. You either do that, so I emceed every week, and I became a better comic because I was forced to MC, which is the most important job in the show. And in fact, in Boston, where I had first started, the headliner is the MC. Does 20 minutes up front, brings up the other comics, closes with 25. The MC's, to me, the most important person in the show. Mostly every job I've ever gotten, including Letterman, is because it's who I knew. I was recommended, people knew that I worked my ass off and that I did get laughs, and I was able to get work that way. But just walking around clubs, it's very, very difficult, because you don't have people that you know in the audience. So you meet 2 other comedians, and you go to where you need 3 comics to be on stage. Well, one week you're the comic and they're your audience members, and you switch it around. Whatever it takes to get stage time with integrity is the most important thing.
And I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of people volunteering tonight. So I don't want to say that that's really the way, but I will also say, first of all, we're very, very nice. We've known to have like the nicest mics in town, so it's very much community. I've actually run a mic during the year, and I've had people that I've passed from a mic, or I've had them go right to an audition because they were that good. But be nice to everyone. I mean, I work here a lot, and sometimes, as you can see, I check people in, and they won't be nice to me, and then they'll find out I'm the booker, and they'll be like, "Oh, hi!" So, and even if it's not me, people report to me if someone's not nice to them, or if they're not, if they're disrespectful. I hear it, and I don't want I have a lot of people to choose from, and I want people that are here, that are happy to be here, and that are good people, and that are people that I want to work with.
And they're funny, and they'll do what they're asked to do. That's really what we're looking for in terms of, kind of climbing the ranks that way. Honestly, like, the biggest turnoff, I think I can speak for Felicia, but certainly for me, is when you come off as entitled. Like, you start telling me, before you introduce yourself or find out who I am, you just start telling me your resume and dropping every name of every person you ever met. It's a huge turnoff. And if you tell me, oh, I'm above what you're asking me to do, then it's kind of like, well, then I hope you're freaking hilarious, you know, because if you are, we're going to forgive that, you know. But if you're not like in that top 1% of all the comedians in New York, which is the best comedians in the world, then maybe just, you know, be humble when you approach and try to get stage time or whatever.
I had someone DM me once and said, "Don't tell me you're one of those people that ghost people." And I'm like, "No, I'm not, but now I am."
And there's no real fast rule for how long. Some people are, you know, Chappelle was a prodigy when he walked on stage. Not everyone's like that. There's some people. I was just in France performing, and somebody walked on stage, and there was 2 comedians. Everybody sucked except these 2 people, and one of them was this woman whose father was like a bodyguard for Saddam Hussein or something. She had this crazy bit that was like, and her bits were all these amazing bits about her crazy family, and it was I was transfixed and great punchlines. And I said, "Who are you?" Like, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've been doing comedy 2 years now." And I was really shocked because the punchlines were really strong. And there was another guy from Ireland that was really, really funny that had been doing it for like 3-4 years. But that's usually not the case. It's a long slog to get your voice and to get really good at this. You know, takes a lot of time grinding and studying and working and working. Yeah, and effort. And so that's not always the case, but it's not the same for everybody. Some people take a lot longer. Like Rodney Dangerfield took forever, whatever it was, for him to get well known, and other people just get like Louis Black wasn't famous until a long time later in his career, and it takes some people longer, and that's just the way it is. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for you, and I think I'm in a bit of a unique situation in that I am also a comic, and I'm a booker. And I remember that when I was first starting out performing, and I went on stage, and people were laughing, and I got off stage, and I'm like, "When are you booking me? I'm so funny." I'm like, "Why? Why?" And they're just like, "Keep at it." I'm like, "Why? I'm so funny." And now that I'm on the other side of it, I see, and it's hard, and it's so obvious. When I used to do my new talent shows in the beginning, when I first started here, I was, and I would have new talent, and they would get laughs. And then a pro would come on, and it was undeniable. It was the frequency and the decibel of laughter that was so, it filled the room, and it was consistent. And that's where you have to get, and it's also just very, very, very competitive. There are like lots of you who are very talented that want to try to rise to the top, and I just don't have that many spots. So you have to, you have to just try to make your own, be creative and try to find ways to get ahead.
Yeah, and this is the Olympic Village of stand-up comedy, guys, okay? Before you go to the cellar, before you go to these places, you're gonna have to follow some of the best on their worst nights. No, I'm saying no, I'm saying here too, but I'm saying if you go to the cellar, it's a community thing. But on any given night, you'll walk on stage here and you'll have to follow somebody who just decimates the room, or you'll have to be on the same show with those people. And I've seen that look in a comedian, the young comedian who like goes, "I'm really funny," and then gets his ass handed to him because he has to go up after a murderer's row of people has just destroyed. And he doesn't have the chops yet for that, right? Like he's kind of funny, and you see this a lot. I've seen it so many times, and I've been that person. Where, so, you know.
And it's another thing, you have to work out material too. You have material that, you don't know if it's good yet. So if you're auditioning for the booker that night, you're not going to do audition stuff that night. But it's so important to create a stage for yourself or find other open mics where you can play a little bit, because you can't grow if you're just doing the same every joke works act just to get, the great thing is that where we've been doing it for a while, so when we go to clubs, they allow us to do a little bit of playing on stage and try a new punchline or a new joke. But right now at the beginning, you're in New York, it's the greatest city in the world for stand-up, and just make a whole bunch of connections and create something in your neighborhood on Tuesday night if you don't have it, and ask the bartender if we could give you a little bit of money and bring that in. And it takes the work. It takes work, but it's worth every. I've been doing 40 years, and I'm not done. I mean, I'm ready for another 40 if I can live that long.
Okay, so we're gonna have to get to, let's just do like one more quick question, and then, you've been waiting a while, so can you?
I had a couple, but I'll just.
Okay.
I'll limit it. What are your thoughts about festivals? Seems to be a proliferation of them, and.
I'll answer that quickly. You know, just be careful. We had this before, just be careful of the festival. Be careful what their objectives are. Do research on it. A lot of them are just money grabs. Make sure what you're getting of it. If you just want to meet other comedians, if you want to like try to get in front of people, do your research. Some are good, some are not so good. One more.
If you're only being given 5 to 7 minutes, and you have a great 5 to 7 minute bit, always does really well, should you keep doing that for years and years because it's new audiences, they've never heard it, you've done it a million times, you keep doing it even though it's great, or do you say, I'm tired of it, I'm going to do a whole
Well, if you
5
keep
minutes?
doing it and you're not getting anywhere, I would say that you should probably try to develop it more.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. It also depends on what your goals are. You know, like most comedians I talk to want to headline. When you're headlining, you're going to do more than 5 to 7 minutes, right? You're going to do 40 to 60 minutes in most places on the road. So you need to have a 5 to 7 minute bit that absolutely crushes, and then 8 more of those, and then you'll be there, right?
Yeah, if you get past, because you had a really great 5-minute set and I put you on stage and you have to do 12 minutes, you're going to bomb and I'm never going to book you again.
You got to be, you got to be able
Bottom
to
line.
do the time. You got to be able to do the time, which is another reason to say maybe don't audition until you're actually ready to do the job. But everybody, it's very hard to know where you're at. You know, you need somebody to be honest with you. That's another thing you can get from a teacher in a class. At the end of a class, if I worked with you for 3, 4, 6 weeks, whatever the class is, and you come to me and say, hey, do you think I'm ready to audition? I'll tell you yes or no. I will answer you directly, yes or no. And if it hurts your feelings, if it's no, I'm sorry, but I'd rather be honest. I never lie to any of my students, ever.
Okay, does anyone have like a one-liner joke that, okay, come on up.
Oh, wait.
In comedy, you gotta be quick or you'll never get anywhere.
I'm ready. Okay. All right, so I've been married twice. Both my husbands were married before they married me. It's like getting a used car. That didn't go over well at all. No. And where the heck?
And one that isn't working, or
It's not working, Brian.
Yes.
It's not working. So both my husbands were married before they married me. It's like getting a used car. New cars have that new car smell. Used husbands, I'm not sure what that smell is.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It's not working.
Let's see. Not working. Let's see. What is wrong with this joke?
That'll surprise us. That'll surprise us.
Comparing the,
Well, there's a lot of moving parts in it. First
Yeah.
of all, there's a lot. It feels like a one-liner that becomes like a
It's the
four-liner.
opening to a whole set about my ex-husband.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, just go sit down.
Okay, but if it doesn't, okay, but if it isn't working, then it's got to be tweaked, and it has to be shortened so that you've got to get to the punchline quicker. I'm not exactly sure, what's the joke again?
Both my
car,
husbands were
used
married
car.
before they married me. It's like getting a used car. New cars have that new car smell. Used husbands, not sure.
Yeah, there's a
So
lot of.
what I would do if we'll go down,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I would be happy about it. My husband is like a used car. He's really worn in. He works great, and the good news is I'm gonna trade him in.
Yeah, wait. Next, somebody else go, and I'm thinking.
Yeah, so I would tighten up the setup if you can. Like maybe be like, when you marry a man who's been married before, it's kind of like buying a used car. And I think that clarifies what you're saying, right? But maybe you could do an act out of like the used car salesman, He's only got 80,000 miles on him. You know, kick the tires. Look at what's under the hood. You know, kind of like if you're going to make an analogy.
He was married to a little old lady.
Yeah.
She barely used him. You know,
That's great.
he had a short marriage to an elderly lady, and then she barely took him out of the garage. You know, she took him. Never used him. Never used him. There's no his odometer.
That's where I would go. I would do everything. Find everything about a new car, rental car, or any kind of car. I would say, you know, I'm afraid he's rolled back his odometer. You know, that's what it would be, because that's what you would really be afraid of with a car. The car is the foundation, and the fact that you have the husband. What are all the things that can go wrong having a car? He takes diesel. You know, all the different things that a car.
There's a structural problem with the joke because you've set up, it's a set up punchline, but the first punchline doesn't deliver. You say, there's no, you're like, it's like getting a used car. And that sounds like it's going to be a punchline, but it's not. So the audience is, and then you have to go.
Sometimes it gets laughs.
Sometimes it does, of course. It's not a killer. It's got to get it. But when you set up something like that, it's like a used car, you know. It sounds like that first part needs to get a better punchline or something like that, where so that it doesn't have that staccato trying to start a car. Like when you set up a loop, it has to end up. Something needs to be funnier there, or something like that, or it needs to have some more emotion.
Right. If you say I've been married twice, now you've set it up for us to see what's going to happen. Why have you been married twice? Why has they've been married more than once? Are you attracted to someone? You find all of the scenarios in the situation. You set it up and you knock it down.
So go ahead, you guys try to just do quickly what you would do with the joke.
Okay, give me the joke again.
Both my husbands were married before they married.
Okay, both your husbands were married before they married you.
Before they married me.
Got it. Okay. Both my wife. Okay, I'm trying to.
Punchline could be men should have a Carfax.
Yes.
Yeah.
Took me a second.
So I married a second wife twice. I did
Yes,
a second
both my
wife
parents were married
twice.
before they married me.
Yes.
Then I'm going into both my husbands were married before they married me. I'm just a wrecking ball. They're going through people left and right. I'm trying to riff here to get somewhere. But well, they were married before they married twice before they married me. You're the third person for two different people. Is that the?
What?
You're the third.
Yeah.
So you're the.
No, I was the second wife.
Okay, you're the second. See, this is what. That's why. I'm also confused by the numbers here.
I
Right?
was the second wife. Both my husbands were married before they married me.
The bad news is blah blah blah. The good news is that this is happening.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
Yeah.
our way to go. The bad news is that the carpets are all shoddy, but the good news is that I was able to roll back the odometer and get this guy to do what I needed to
The
do.
good news is I'm the trophy wife. The bad news is the third one's the charm.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Something like that. Something
Yeah.
like it's they're married. What is it? They're married twice before they
Go
married.
ahead.
So-
I'm having trouble with the math.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm just kind of stuck on the setup. I would just say, the problem with marrying a guy who's been married before is it's kind of like buying a used car. You know, and so I think that's a strong way to say what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
I would.
I think it would be better to rent a car,
Yeah.
before I got a used car.
Or Uber.
This way,
Right,
because this way
They
you
should
can
have Uber for husbands. You know,
Because
like
this way,
an
if you
Uber.
rent the person, you could smash it into the tree,
Right.
and with insurance, you'll get a brand new person.
Right, and that's the next part of the joke. I say my first one was so short, 2 years, it was like
Okay.
a car rental.
And so if you did the Uber thing, that you can be like, I should have known when he had a 4.2 rating. Should have known that was bad news.
Like what Eddie said is exactly right. You take every aspect
Hammer
of marriage, used cars, every aspect of automobiles, every aspect of insurance, every aspect of murdering a husband, everything. You have to look at it like a tree,
Yeah,
and
just put as
all the
much
branches of
information.
all of the things. I've married this. I've had worse. I've had worse luck with husbands than the Kardashians. I don't even fucking know. Like there's something about if I kill one more husband, or I'm the wrecking ball, I'm the Terminator of marriage, of third wives.
Prenup versus insurance.
Yeah.
The bottom line is how does it affect you?
Yeah.
And that's what you want to
Yeah, I
get
don't
to.
ever want to get married again.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
She's walking.
Yeah, she's out the door. Runaway bride. Okay.
So we may not have it